one risk that actually holds me back from buying individual shares of NVIDIA. What's going on, guys? Mike here, and welcome back to another video. Today's topic, we're discussing NVIDIA. We're going to be going over a bit of a stock review. We're going to be looking at its 5-year history. We're going to be reviewing its last report on its margins, which are quite mind-blowing. We're going to be looking at also the analysts' expectations for 2024 to 2025 and what we think maybe the stock price will be by 2025. We're going to be looking at some recent announcements from NVIDIA. We're also going to be discussing risks. Now, there are two major risks that I'm going to be highlighting in this video, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, like always, we're going to be talking about my recommendations, how I believe I'm going to get exposure to NVIDIA, because everyone wants to capitalize on this potential famous growth. Before we get too deep into anything, I wanted to just start on the 5-year chart. And you can see here, they've had an unreal growth trend, upwards of almost 1,300%. Now, me being an IT and working with these products on a daily basis, I know how much money they are making on licensing. Yes, they charge a license to use their hardware. So not only are you buying the product to use in a data center, you also have to pay an annual subscription to use it. And they started this in 2017, and you can just see since 2017 a good steady upward trend, and then all of a sudden AI was born into the retail markets, and now their stock is just skyrocketing. So like I said, today we're going to be looking into the projected analysis on NVIDIA, what kind of risks I also can see from this, and again, my recommendations. So let's just get a little bit further into it. Looking at their last report on their financials, I just want to highlight their gross margins. This is just an unreal metric that most companies will have just dreamed of ever having, but 74% in their Q3 fiscal 2024 year, which is, again, unreal. Getting into the actual analysts here, we're going to be looking at a few key metrics. So one, I just wanted to kind of quickly highlight the EPS growth. Okay, so EPS growth in 2023 was 620%, which again, unreal. Now, the analysts are forecasting that we're going to see in the range of around 60%, 66% growth in 2024 and 15% in 2025. Now, I just want to kind of stick on this just for a few minutes here. Now, of course, the growth that they had in 2023 is unheard of. That isn't something that is going to be able to be sustainable, right? The 74% margins that they had in 2024, things should start to level out. 74% margins may not be sustainable, or the type of revenue that they're gaining on a yearly basis, right? So again, I wanted to highlight that the analysts are kind of forecasting that this next year, 2024, will most likely be a pretty good substantial EPS growth, but you can kind of see it taper off, after 2024. So 2025 being 15% and 13% in 2026. Now, of course, obviously, as an analyst, it's very hard to project, far into the future. So this, again, could just be completely wrong. There's obviously a lot of factors like risks that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video. But like I said, I just wanted to highlight that no one seems to be thinking that the growth that NVIDIA is having is going to be 620% every year, right? And again, 2024 having the next best year, and then definitely tapering off, right? So does that mean this is the time to get in? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see here. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is EPS, right? So earnings per share. So in 2023, it was 12.54. They're predicting in 2024 that their earnings per share is going to go up to a whopping $20.91, and then in 2025 being $24.12. Now, again, this is based on their EPS growth. And so again, these are all those forecasts. So this doesn't mean that this is definitely going to happen, but it is on the trend that we can expect an increase. So now I just kind of want to take you over to my Excel sheet, and now I do have the kind of what we were looking at on the previous site. I just again wanted to highlight the key metrics that we did discuss, and I'm just going to scroll down here just to view what we can potentially expect. So right now the stock price is currently at around that $545, $547. And looking online, we can see that a lot of analysts are forecasting that with their EPS growth, we can expect around a future price to earnings ratio around 27. Now, is it going to be 27? I don't really know. So in this chart here, what I'm doing is I'm just taking what they're forecasting for 2025 to be $24.12. And I'm just doing kind of a range of what their PE ratios could be, right? So again, the middle being the analyst estimations, meaning that the stock price could be in the range of $651 by 2025. And then still keeping the same EPS, but adjusting their PE ratio. We're looking at around, if it was 25, we're looking at 603, and then on the high end of the PE being near $700 per share. Again, I just want to highlight that this is all forecast, right? This doesn't mean this is going to happen, but all trends are indicating that we should see an increase on the current stock price. Now we're not going to go from like what it was, being $200 to, let's say, the $600 range, but these are still really good averages if you were to get in at around that $545. Moving into a few announcements here, NVIDIA has announced that they're going to be moving AI into the consumer space in 2024, which would be for your desktops and laptops. I haven't seen anything specific online about any sort of like tablets, but I'm going to guess that those are also on the docket as well. Now, the reason why I wanted to just highlight this is because, of course, we're looking at forecasted growth for 2024, being in around that 66%. But if all of a sudden AI gets brought into the consumer space and not just the data center, that's another stream of revenue that will contribute to that growth for NVIDIA. So moving into the risks, there are two I want to talk about, and the first one being AMD. Now, AMD may not be leading edge compared to NVIDIA at the moment, but one thing I do want to highlight, because like I said, I am in IT and I personally have seen data center shifts where, for example, Intel versus AMD. Now, it seems like Intel has been kind of falling behind the ball a little bit, and AMD really coming to the table, and lots of considerations are being made that potentially AMD should be considered to be a part of the data center technologies. Now, something to consider here when it comes to AMD versus NVIDIA. Now, me personally, I'm a big NVIDIA fan, but what if market share is split between NVIDIA and AMD? There's a potential that AMD it will come out with a product that will force NVIDIA to reduce, their margins because they need to be competitive against AMD. Just an example, right? The next risk we're going to be talking about is the one risk that actually holds me back from buying individual shares of NVIDIA, and that is Taiwan Semiconductors. The biggest reason why I feel that Taiwan is a major risk to NVIDIA's growth is because, of course, this is where they get their semiconductors from. If they're unable to keep up with demand, then NVIDIA will not be able to supply the consumer with the product, therefore lowering their annual growth. So there's a few things that come with Taiwan. Now, the first thing is that Taiwan has mentioned that they have intentions of doubling their production for 2024. Now, that's great. Now, I haven't seen anything that supports that how they're going to be accomplishing this, or if they'll actually be able to, right? Because when you got other companies also demanding their needs, what does that mean for NVIDIA? Are they going to be able to get everything that they need to produce their GPUs? The other thing being is obviously there's conversation about China invading Taiwan, and if that happens again, we're going to end up seeing a massive decline on AMD, Intel, Tesla, NVIDIA, a ton of companies that rely on Taiwan Semiconductors, because if they get invaded, obviously we're going to have issues. So that's again a big reason why I feel that this is a primary concern of mine. All right, so we've gone over the stock review, we've gone over a few announcements, we've gone over the risks. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for future content, and let's get into the recommendations. One of the ways I'm going to be talking about for my recommendations is that obviously everyone is a different type of investor. So some people are going to like the first method, which is just buying directly into the NVIDIA stock in one of the US exchanges. The other method is that some people don't necessarily like dealing with currency exchange. So there are options that you can buy CDRs of NVIDIA on the TSX exchange, which could be done through our nice Wealth Simple online broker. The other method is actually going through ETFs. So one ETF being tech.to. This particular ETF holds specifically tech companies. So not only are you going to be getting exposure to NVIDIA, but you're also going to be getting exposure to many other tech companies, which I'll show you shortly. But before we do, I just wanted to highlight this particular ETF was created in 2019 and has performed exceptionally well, returning 115% since May of 2019. And like I said, those holdings being Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, NVIDIA, etc., etc. And by getting into tech.to, you're actually getting an exposure of 5.61%, which is, in my opinion, a good number to be in. The other option, which is my personal favorite, is obviously going to be XEQT. XEQT again holds over 9,000 different equities, and in particular, NVIDIA is one of the top ones. It is a small weighting though, but you can see NVIDIA being at 1.34% of the total weighting within XEQT. Now, there's this whole thing about fear of missing out. Now, me personally, I want to buy directly into NVIDIA because I personally think that the trends are looking like over the course of 2024, we will go higher than what it's currently priced at. Now, I don't know if I would hold till the end of 2024, but that's just my own emotions playing into it, which then freaks me out for buying directly into NVIDIA because emotions can skew decisions, right? So again, I'm sticking with my all-in-one ETF XEQT, and I have my 1.34% exposure, which again, I know is small. I could also mix XEQT with tech.to if I wanted to just increase that exposure ever so slightly, but this is the decision for myself. It might be different for you. If you are interested in XEQT, definitely check out this video here. And before you leave, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.